Welcome to a special edition of Sweeping the Country. This is the summer vacation edition. Please welcome to the program Mr. Traveler himself, Jimmy Carter. Hey, Jimmy.
Well, it can be for holidays.
Okay, so it
long
doesn't have to be summer.
weekends,
Yeah.
summer vacations. I mean, not everybody takes a vacation in the summertime. Sometimes
true.
it's just too damn hot.
Yeah, that's true.
Or whatever. But this is a domestic,
Okay,
North American version
I like that.
of this. I mean, not, and we can include Caribbean in that, and Europe's a whole special another deal.
Okay,
Because
fair.
I have had some, and the point of this is that as we, and some of you are older, and in order to look backwards in your life, and that's okay to do sometimes, but you want to create memories. You certainly want to create them with your children
Yes, I agree.
from an early age,
I agree with that.
and they can't remember squat. My first memory was probably 5.
Yeah.
We went to New York for my brother's graduation from West Point.
Okay.
And I do remember that trip. I remember it through pictures.
Yeah.
And God knows you got to take a lot of pictures and prints. That's a whole nother ballgame. But I remember a lot. In fact, my brother, who's in his 80s,
Yeah.
we were talking about that just this weekend. Because we went, he had just graduated from high school.
Okay.
And I was 5. And he was saying, do you remember that place we had to stay in?
Yeah.
And I said, actually, I do. Because my friend Ted and I went by there when we went to West Point 4 or 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was called the Old Oak, and it looked like it was a piece of crap. And this is, 50 years later, it was really bad.
It
was
was
one of these
still-
places it was the only place I ever stayed at
Yeah.
that had the toilet and the shower and all that stuff at the end of the hall.
Is it still? You say it's still there? Is it still operating?
It's still there.
And
it's still going.
Holy cow.
Apparently.
Holy
I don't know if
cow.
they've done something with it, but the Old Oak or whatever it is not too far from the gate there. There's just not a lot of places to stay around the military academy. West
Hey.
Point's kind of off to the side a little bit.
It didn't have a vibrating bed that you put coins in, did it?
Well, I was 5, so we had some of those. I remember
I
going to
do
those with my
too.
parents when we were a kid. We did driving vacations.
Yeah, that was
man, we didn't
popular.
fly.
That was
We
more
got in
popular.
a car. My dad had a Lincoln, and we always had a Lincoln, and we drove to where we were going, like the bar association. Now,
Yeah.
we did take a train to New York. We
Okay.
didn't we never drove to New York, to my knowledge. But we did drive from Montgomery, Alabama to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, there's no interstates back then, so you took U.S. highways.
Wow.
And I remember it was the talk of my family for so long that we stayed at a motor court hotel.
Yeah.
You remember those where
Oh,
you drive
yeah.
up to the room and all those? Those
Yeah.
were great.
Yeah, they
Easy
were.
to carry your bags.
Usually had
And
a
it was
nice
some
pool.
motor court. I don't know how people I guess they didn't make reservations. Maybe there wasn't any way to make a reservation back in
I don't know.
1950s, late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
And we stayed at some place in St. Augustine. My mother, I think, stayed on him about it for a lot of years. And the people next door in the thin walls, it was me and my sister. We were little.
Yeah.
And, the parents, they were playing the theme from Woody Woodpecker all night long.
Ha 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 ha.
Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. And somehow that was a record too.
It's so
And that just
funny.
drove everybody. They went crazy, but I remember they never stopped talking about that.
It's so funny
And
what
then
you remember. That's a weird thing to remember, but if it's something that left a mark, you're going to remember it. So you remember.
Yeah, and I remember going to Marine Land.
Yeah.
That was down on that trip. I
yeah.
couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 at the latest. And then we went to Miami, and that was the first time we were staying at the Fontainebleau.
Ooh,
And this
fancy.
was around the time they probably hadn't made Goldfinger. I'm sure we were there before Goldfinger was made.
Yeah.
But that's the first thing in Goldfinger. It starts out with helicopter, blimp shot, or whatever
Yeah.
of the Fontainebleau Hotel. That's where Goldfinger. That's where the woman got painted gold.
I'll be darned.
That's where they were supposedly at.
Yeah,
was
I'll
at the
be darned.
Fontainebleau. But I remember that they had cubed. See, that's why you got to make memories of this stuff. The Fontainebleau. They had all these. Now, I'm not a coffee drinker.
Yeah.
But everywhere in the hotel, it seemed like, were these bowls of sugar cubes.
What
They were
for?
in cubes
To eat?
for coffee.
Oh,
I
just
guess.
as you're walking by, you drop your
Well, it had them, I guess, strategically placed places where coffee was being served.
Yeah, but you're
And
a
I
kid.
would go around and eat. I would eat those cubes, man. I'd open it up and then
Heck
eat.
yeah.
I definitely remember. That's why I have so many cavities. But I remember eating those cubes. And then I remember, just I was old enough where I could I must have been probably 10.
Yeah.
Because I was old enough to kind of walk around the property unabated,
Yeah, sure.
And
Yeah.
I remember that they told me to stay at the pool area, stay here. There was an ice skating rink in that hotel,
Ooh, indoor,
indoor ice skating. There was a big pool that had a glass window. When people dove, they would come,
huh? Oh, you could
by
see
the
them
window
underwater.
there.
Yeah. See them?
Yeah,
Wow.
and that was really cool. And then I remember I went out to the beach, and they had a very primitive wave runner.
Really? What
And I must have
year
been,
are
I
we
was probably
talking
10
about?
or 11, like 1960 or
Holy
something like
cow!
that.
I had no
Maybe
idea.
61 or 2. I'm 62. I would have been 10. So
Yeah.
maybe somewhere around there when
Yeah.
I was maybe 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Well, all you had to do was sign it to your room. And I took it out. I wasn't supposed to do that, believe
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
My mother said she looked out the window because every once in a while she would look out the window to see if she could find me,
Oh, I love
And she saw me out there on the wave runner, right. Oh, she had a cow.
You were
I
making
can't
your
remember
own
who came
memory.
and- I can't remember who came and got me, but somebody came and got me and
Yeah.
put me back in. But
That's
anyway, that was
funny.
a great memory.
Yeah, that's
And
funny.
then and I remember staying. Then after the convention, I remember we stayed at some crappy hotel, the Congress Inn or something. I don't know. I had a lot of memories about that trip. And I
did you
remember we went
guys-
to Las Vegas and couldn't go into the hotel because they wouldn't let kids.
That's right. You're too young.
So we stayed at some horrible travel lodge.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
well,
and just, I
probably-
remember.
the mob probably stayed there. That was so. This is like when we were kids. I don't know if it's the same as when you were kids. We had an annual summer trip where we were
Yeah,
out
we
of
did.
school, and then we would just go someplace every summer. And it seemed like it was about a week long. I don't remember how long really.
No, ours was usually based around wherever the American Bar Association was.
Oh, so it's a
So
business trip.
It was in San Francisco. It was in New York.
That's kind of
It
cool.
was in Miami.
Yeah.
Those were places they took us to.
Yeah.
Now they went on their own. Sometimes when it was somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I went to New York a lot. In fact,
Really?
I wouldn't be on this microphone if it wasn't for some of those trips. When I don't know how old I was, but I was certainly old enough to walk the streets a little bit.
Yeah.
And, because it wasn't considered to be, I guess, completely dangerous.
I
But
don't know why,
I
but you're
would-
right. They used to turn us loose. I mean, 10 was probably about right, 10, 12, and we pretty much roamed all over the place. We'd go to a national park, and we'd take off for the day and see my parents at noon or whatever,
I remember that the Four Seasons were popular. So it was pre-Beatle. So
Mm-hmm. Okay.
it's probably 62 or 63. I might have been 10 or 11,
Where
12
you at?
years
Are you
old.
on Fifth Avenue just walking along or what?
I went down to the RCA building
Okay.
where NBC was.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time I ever went. And I just went into some back entrance, and the next thing you know, I'm on the third floor. They didn't have security like they do now.
Not now. Yeah, now you would have never.
And I ended up on the third floor, and I was peeping in, and I remember watching Bill Cullen. Bill Cullen was hosting a show called Monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow I remember after I hung around and did some more hanging around because I know I didn't look like I was supposed to be there.
Well,
There's
sure,
no way.
You're a kid.
And I'm some young kid,
Yeah.
and then I looked and saw. I remember Dr. Joyce Brothers.
oh,
was
I
hosting
remember
the
her.
show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were hosting the show Monitor. You're listening to
Jeez.
Monitor on the NBC radio network. Boy, I just said, this is the end of the world. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, this is so cool.
Isn't that something?
And I even went with them when I got a little older. I know I was a little old. I was in college.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was up there on my own. I'm pretty sure I wasn't. So
Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember I don't know. But we had great experiences in New York.
That's
With a lot
awesome.
of things like Mama Leone. I started thinking about Billy Joel's song. Remember that song?
Oh,
Mama Leone.
Left
I used
a
to go
note
to
on
Mama
the door.
Leone's and eat. Mama
Really
Leone's was a very good Italian,
interesting.
kind of a regular people, not high end
Yeah.
Italian restaurant
Yeah,
there in Broadway, the Broadway
man.
area.
Oh, I'll be darned. I didn't
And,
know that was real.
Yeah, Mama Leone's used to love to go there. And I remember they gave us these paper like this, that was you put down in front of you.
A placemat.
And it had a map of Italy on there and all that stuff like that. And I guess you could play with it as a kid. But I mean, think of all these memories that are just pouring out.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
Jimmy,
of going with my mom and dad places.
these are not from yesterday. I mean, you're remembering way back.
Oh,
So the mark that
from
they
way
left.
between 5 and 10 and 15 years old,
Yeah.
when you traveled with your mom and dad. And
Now fast forward, because I have a lot of those too, and I remember just like you do. But my sister and I, when we compare the trips or the experiences, they're slightly different how we remember them. But we were a different age, and we were about 5 years apart. What have you done in reference to that with your own kids? You took them on trips too, right?
I took the girls individual. Well, let's see. Yeah, we'd have to ask them what they remember actually, but
yeah.
I know individually, they were far apart. They were 6 years apart.
Okay, so almost the
And
same as my sister.
I took both of them as they grew, and the third and daughter number 3, who was way back there.
Yeah.
I was still doing what I was doing, and I took them all on Hollywood trips.
Well,
movie star trips
you
to
knew
New
all
York
those
or Hollywood, or in fact, I took 2 of them to Paris.
Yeah.
In a Thanksgiving time, and that was pretty cool.
Oh,
to be over there when it's
Paris?
cold and all that to Paris.
That's awesome.
And and took one of them to Scotland. That's when she was like 12 or 13, and she got to meet Sean Connery.
Yeah. Weren't you doing The Rock or one of the?
And we had lunch.
Yeah.
We were doing. I don't know. Well,
Was
yeah,
it
that
called
was
The
true.
Rock?
No kids were in that one.
Yeah.
This was in Scotland. He had done some movie with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Okay.
And I can't remember something. I can't remember the name of it now. One of the last ones he did.
Yeah.
But she got to have. We didn't want to go with a group. We never did anything with a group.
Yeah.
And so we went and had a dinner. And they sat us next to him because they were the only ones in the restaurant.
I'll be darned.
And we didn't bother. He had seen it. He knew me, but we never spoke until it was over with.
Yeah.
And then and then she saw him the next day, and he remembered her.
How great!
And
great.
At the end of it, a 12-year-old girl,
yeah.
And I can see her now with these braces on her teeth and everything, getting a picture made.
Yeah.
She told me out there at the end, she was serious as she could be. I think he likes me more than you. I'll never forget that she said that.
Yeah, and that might have been true.
It's true.
Yeah.
But no, Tough took them. Yeah, I definitely gave them experiences.
I love it. I love it.
Years. I made a point of doing that. Definitely a point of doing that.
Okay, so
my parents surely did for me. So let's take what you're going to do.
Okay, yeah.
Things are so expensive now.
Yeah,
I mean, yes, I remember going to Disneyland.
Yeah,
which I think is a whole lot better than Disney World. I don't know about you.
Really? Well,
Have you been to
No, I've only been to Disneyland, but I've been to Disneyland about 20 times. I've never been to Disney World.
Disney World's big and spread out.
Yeah.
It's humid and there are bugs. And I've been there a lot. I've been when it's closed. I've been all over it.
Yeah.
But I had a better experience every time at Disneyland.
I mean, I loved it. I did love Disneyland.
Because the weather's better.
Okay.
The weather's better in Southern California. It's dry, even if it's warm.
Yeah.
And it's a million degrees down at Walt Disney World in the summertime.
Yeah, and it's very humid and
people are throwing up and all kinds of stuff.
You don't want to smell that.
I mean, no. And it was just I love Disneyland.
Yeah.
And I was there 63. I remember that 63 and 64. I have a lot of pictures of that because it hadn't been open that many years at that point. But that was a cool place. That was a great memory.
I mean, it's gone up. We've talked about this before, but the price of a ticket to get in, I don't know, somewhere, I would guess somewhere between $100 and $200.
Oh, it's outrageous. For a kid, for a day or two.
Is it? I mean, I always thought it was worth it. I even thought when I took my own kids, I thought it's worth $1,000 to get everybody in there and do the dinner and the hotel, whatever it costs at the time, $2,500. I don't know, for a week, 3 days. Is it worth it to you? I mean, would you say a top 10 Disneyland stop to create a memory? I would. I
think at some point, in there, I think you can take them too early.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I think you can definitely take them too early.
Yeah,
and they're not going to. I mean, to take a 2 and 3 year old and stuff like that is ridiculous.
Yeah,
is ridiculous.
But a 5, 6 year old,
I think because my granddaughter is I'm my second set of grandchildren.
Yeah.
Mary Catherine's now 6. I think she's ready now, and she ought to go in the next year or so. But I don't know that Chip, who's 3, he might be a little too little. I don't know how you do that, but you might have to take. I know they'd want to take them all, but one of them's now 3 months, so
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that. You have to break them up, or somebody keeps the baby and you take the older. I don't know how that's going to
I
work.
don't either. I mean, there's a year like
Can't punish the oldest.
the 6-year-old is perfect. The fantasy is still alive and all that, and that's great.
Yeah, and all that, and you're
that's perfect.
seeing Mickey Mouse, and
Yeah.
I took the mother of that child. I took her with her sister to Disney World. Yeah,
Yeah.
her mother and I guess we took them, and we also took. I took her to work when I was opening up one of the mountains, whatever that mountain was called that they opened it. I think they're tearing it down
The Matterhorn?
now because it has a southern theme. No, the other one. It was another one. It was a roller coaster.
Oh, okay.
And I think they're tearing it down because it's got some, older, some politically incorrect theme.
Oh,
But
jeez.
I remember doing that, and I had the oldest one. She was my field producer on the phone
Yeah.
because I did live TV from there. The other one was scared to death. She was probably 4 or 5.
Too young.
She was scared of the creatures of like the big old Mickey Mouses and the big old Goofies
Yeah, I've
and
seen
all that.
Yeah, I've seen
Man,
it.
she was terribly frightened.
Yeah.
By those characters. So I think you've got to get old enough where they're past that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but Dollywood, all those places, they're so hard on children. Parents go, and you're in a crowd of all these people, and maybe you've got the little one in a stroller,
Yeah. I've
little
done
bitty
that.
stroller,
I've done it.
and they're sweating.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hotter than 18 hells.
Yeah.
And
it can be tough. It can be tough. That's why they have the water rides, I think. But I do think it's, I've never been to Dollywood. I would like to do Dollywood. I like the Magic Mountain parks. I think they're fun.
They're the Six Flags group
Yeah.
of places. The thing about them,
Yeah.
they're kind of like one of the Universals down in Florida.
Another great
there was
one,
one of there's one of the parks. There's 2, and soon to be 3. One's very ride intensive.
Yeah.
So that's teenagers,
Older kids. Yep.
and
Yeah.
older kids,
Yeah.
teenagers, because they can't ride when they're probably 6 or 7.
They're too
They
short.
can't ride till they're 12, too short.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I remember, the driving trips. We went to Grand Canyon,
Oh, yeah.
and we went to Pikes Peak,
Yeah.
and
That's
we
a
went
great
to
spot.
those places like that. I don't know that people have the patience, or it was a
I
2-week
don't
trip.
know either.
I
I don't
remember that, a little over 2 weeks, and we drove from Montgomery to San Fran. We went from Montgomery to, this is pre-interstate,
Yeah.
Longview, Texas, then Amarillo, and I remember all these cities,
Wow.
and then to Denver, and then we went
Wow.
to Salt Lake from Denver, and from Denver we went to that city, Elk. I don't know what it is. It's on the far right
Is it
side,
Nevada?
high up, Ely, Nevada.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Ely. Yeah. Well, I've seen
that's
Ely.
up there. And then the next day we went to Reno,
Yeah.
and then
Biggest
next
little
day we
city.
went to. I think we went on in from Reno. We may have stopped and shopped, and this was when I was I was 12. I remember that trip every day,
Yeah.
and I remember how boring it was some days to be in the back of that car,
Yeah.
and just
sitting
breathe
there,
the
yeah.
smoke from my father's cigar.
That is true. They
And I
used to
remember
smoke.
they had these games where they would, first one to see a windmill or a cow, all
God,
that stuff to keep us going in the back seat of the car.
You make me think about that because we used to play something called Slug Bug. That was if you saw a Volkswagen Bug,
Oh,
you get
yeah,
to punch
Slug
the
Bug
other
and-
person. Yeah, and there was
Yeah.
another one, the ABC game. You would try to find letters of the alphabet in order as you go on signs and license plates and all
Anything,
that.
because for some reason we weren't listening to music or anything like
well,
that. I don't know.
We did not have this. I mean, we didn't have cell
No, we
phones,
didn't have anything.
laptops. We didn't
No.
have anything. So we were just
I
making
remember
up
my
stuff.
father. We were in Ely, Nevada,
Yeah,
and it was a border town, so it's a gambling border town.
yeah, sure.
So pretty in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing.
Yeah, it's desert. Yeah,
anywhere near there. And I remember I wanted to see, and I saw the slot machines and everything, and I wanted to see gambling so bad.
yeah.
We finally said, "Here's a 20. Go get me change for the 20." And I thought he was going to gamble. So I came back with my shirt tail out with $20 in change. I thought he was going to kill me.
Did he?
I thought I was a dumbass. I mean,
did he just mean a 10, 5, and 5 ones?
Yeah, he wanted change for a 20. He didn't want $20 in change. Oh, I remember he gave me hell for that for a long for years
Creating
after that.
memories. There's another one.
Oh, but that's creating memories.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember we were driving down the coast, and I remember somehow we did have the radio on, or
Yeah.
maybe I knew it. Marilyn Monroe died,
Oh no. Yeah, she was
and as
young.
a kid, I kind of knew who she was,
Yeah.
and I knew it was a big deal. It
Yeah.
was a really big deal out in California when she died because we weren't far from there.
Yeah.
And then we stayed in San Luis Obispo,
Ooh, beautiful.
driving down from San Francisco. Okay.
That's a beach town, right?
We couldn't make it all the way to Los Angeles to Disneyland.
Yeah.
So we stayed in San Luis Obispo. Well, apparently my mom and dad were tired. They just pulled our pajamas out of a bag and took them up. And we just took whatever it was just to get us by sleeping to get out there again in the morning.
Yeah.
When we went out there in the morning, people had broken into the car and
Oh,
stolen everything. Stolen my underwear, stole everything. I didn't have anything but the pajamas I had on.
that's not funny, but it
And I
is kind of
remember-
funny.
And I remember we had to drive into Santa Barbara
Yeah.
to the J.C. Penney's and buy all new clothes.
I'll be darned. Well, that worked out pretty
And
nice.
they took my father's briefcase and they found it 6 months or a year later on Catalina Island.
How strange is that? And crime wasn't
Yeah,
really
in the
prevalent back
papers.
then. Yeah.
I guess it's in San Luis Obispo. I never really had any love for that place after that.
Yeah, I guess not. But it is pretty. I mean,
But
you're
the
right there.
memory,
Yeah.
but you're making memories, and you try not to make memories like that.
Yeah.
But
You have
We
them,
t-
and they're still fond memories because you think back about I mean, maybe it was going to J.C. Penney and buying all new stuff. It's a fun thing.
I remember just sitting there and I was just in my poor pajamas,
In the
doing
store.
that. But I mean, yeah. But the point is to make, if you're not doing anything, you're not going to make a memory good or bad.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's
if you're
true.
out if you're out doing something, like when Ted and I were on our excellent adventure this last year,
Yeah, Jimmy.
and the car
Ted's
decides
Excellent
to
Adventure.
blow up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you're going to have car trouble. You're going to have something if you're doing anything.
Yeah.
If you do enough of it.
You're right
you're gonna
about that.
End up doing something.
We were just talking the other day about a family trip that we took, and we were a big boating family, so we did a lot of boating. And we would go to different lakes and rent houseboats and stuff like that. And we have a lot of fond memories. And that's of my kids, not me. My parents never took me there, but we took our kids there. And I remember one year we sunk a boat. And it is the most
Ooh.
memorable year of our lifetime of boating. Everybody remembers the sunken
Sunk
boat,
a boat.
except for my son Wyatt, who was too little at the time. But you have some adversity, and sometimes that makes for the best trip. I don't know why, but sometimes it does. It just breaks everybody down, and you spend time together. You deal with a problem. Maybe it's a learning experience. I don't know, but I wish that car trips would come back a little bit. I know people.
Well, they
fly.
have for me.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, true.
I mean, Ted and I have certainly, in our later years here, have done some of those big car trips. We fly somewhere. In some cases, we fly somewhere. Some cases, we don't.
Yeah,
We've done driving trips out west where we've flown into Seattle and rented a car and taken a big old circle.
yeah, no doubt.
And I think something too, people to experience cruises.
Yeah, I like that.
I think you can do some of those,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, after you've done a couple, that's enough.
I agree.
mean,
I've had two.
We wore them out. We got to where we wore them out.
How many did
And
you
the
do?
Caribbean, you've been to one Caribbean port. You've sort of been to them all, and
Yeah, I agree with that.
there's. I mean, I'm glad I got to see. I mean, I saw a parrot flying. I've never seen a parrot flying, but St. Martin. I would go back to again. But see, I'm not one of those that can just sit around and do nothing.
You just said something. I've been to St. Martin, and you and I don't go to a lot of the same places because you travel a lot, and I don't travel much at all. But I've been there to St. Martin. I did St. Thomas. I did the whole set of the Caribbean right there. St. Martin was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life. The white sand, the water was 80 degrees. I mean, it was beautiful.
I would have loved to have stayed longer there. It was now what the problem with these boats now.
Yeah.
They want you to be on the boat as long as they possibly can keep you. They'll take you to
that's
the
true.
port and they'll let you out, but
In
you're not
4
they
hours.
You got to be maybe a little longer for some of them, but not a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
they
it's
want
true.
you back
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
true.
and certainly 7 or 8, 6 or 7. I don't know. You needed more time. I'd rather be dawn to dusk at some of these
Well, I
places.
remember a
But
friend of mine who whose mom was a travel agent. She would book us. We went to Hawaii, and his mom would book us. We'd go to the Caribbean,
yeah,
and she would book us on the trip. And she used to say about the cruises, she said, use the cruise to find a place you like, and then fly back there
no, that
and
is true,
enjoy it.
and we've done that. And
Yeah.
I would go back to St. John.
Yeah,
I
beautiful.
would go back to Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
I would go back to well, I mean, even all of it though is pretty much the same water. Cayman Islands,
Yeah.
you have to wear these rubber shoes, rubber feet because there's really no beach. There's coral,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you
And
cut
it's
your feet
sharp.
up.
It's
So
very sharp. Yeah.
sharp. So you got to wear these rubber things that you can buy down there. But yeah, I mean, some places, you drive around and there's really not that much to see,
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
any of
you're
these
right.
places. It's for divers. If
Yeah.
you're a diver,
I
yeah.
did dive
You
there.
can't
Yeah.
go at certain times. So you can get in trouble with not knowing what you're getting into. Like you don't want to go to the Bahamas in like August because it's hotter than hell and mosquitoes are everywhere.
Okay. So that's good to know.
Bugs, yeah, you don't, that's really more of a place you go in the winter time,
The
'cause
the Virgin Islands is nice too because there's no currency issues. You still can spend dollars. You
that's
can-
true because you're still in America.
Yeah,
Which
really.
there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I
really.
agree. I agree, which brings me
Uh,
to Mexico, and I know you've probably done it.
Ugh.
I don't feel great going to Mexico. I would take that
No,
off my
I will
list.
never go back there. I've never felt good there. And I've worked in Puerto Vallarta,
Yeah,
and machine gun people are on the beach there guarding you. That made me uncomfortable.
me too. Yeah, me
I
too.
never was never comfortable eating the food
Yeah,
because you always hear about people getting sick and stuff, and then tricky stuff. Well, I'll just eat a salad. Well, that's the worst thing you can eat
right.
in
Exactly.
some of these places because the lettuce is grown with the local water and it gets in there.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
So,
right.
I mean, there were just too many things to remember,
Yeah,
in that. Puerto Vallarta is physically beautiful, though,
yeah.
with the ocean. Oh, my God.
Well,
Acapulco, God, how beautiful that place was. But it was scary, and it was also sad because there was so much poverty. But
there's
we
a
were in the
ton of
hotel
poverty. Yeah,
where Elvis made some movie, Fun in Acapulco, and had pink Jeeps, and people remembered. And you had your own private pool. You had these two
oh, that's
bungalows
kind of nice.
that were connected to a private pool there.
Yeah,
That was kind of neat. I mean, but again, if you go in the summertime, it's 1,000 degrees.
yeah. And you said it. You said
it's
it
hot.
at the beginning of this podcast. There's, staying in the U.S. and I'm bad because I went to Mexico, but there's plenty to see right here. I mean, you've seen so much. I mean, Alaska.
Oh, there's plenty to see.
If you've never been to Alaska, it's beautiful. It really is. Beautiful.
Alaska, that was, I wish as a younger person, I had tried to do some of the Alaska stuff.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, that's an example of where went on a cruise
Mm-hmm.
out of Seattle to the number of Alaskan ports and came back 5 days,
Yeah.
6 days, 7 days,
Great
whatever
trip.
it was.
Yeah.
And stopped in these places, and you get a sample of all of them. We ride the train to the Yukon Territory,
I did that.
or you
Yeah.
go around, and there are eagles in the trees that are like sparrows in some parts of the country.
Yeah, just loaded. Yeah.
And that's where I went back to. I had Ted fly, but another year, I took a plane out of Seattle to Ketchikan, and
Did
then
you really?
rented a car and found the eagles and I'd go back tomorrow if I could.
Yeah, it's
Um,
beautiful.
But that was expensive, but fun.
And
But
for
yeah,
people,
that was good. The Alaskan cruise was cool.
yeah,
I mean,
I liked it too.
if you go on a nice cruise, it's nice. I don't gamble particularly, and I certainly don't do a lot of drinking. And on these cruises, now, they've got where the rich people are cordoned off from the public.
Yeah, pretty much.
They've got separate dining rooms now in these cruise ships.
Oh yeah.
If you're paying high end stuff, they got separate elevators for you. You're in
Yeah.
a whole separate part. You can mingle if you want to,
Yeah.
but it's a separate little part of the
You know,
ship. And
you brought up as a kid, you said when I was younger, I wish I would have done that. And a lot of people think of Alaska, oh, it's an old person's trip, right? It's nothing to do on this trip, whatever. When I went to Alaska, it was 75 degrees, first of all. Second of all,
yeah.
I got to see the glaciers. I got to see the coastline all the way up. Both of my kids went, and they were probably in the 10, 12, 14 age. somewhere in that range. They loved the trip. They had a
Were
good
you on a
time.
cruise or
Yeah,
what?
we took a cruise,
Oh, the
Norwegian.
cruise. That would be good because you do get to go see the Mendenhall Glacier
All of
and all
that.
that,
Yeah.
which they all go and do.
Yeah, they
And
liked it.
you see the whales in the water that are up there in that
Oh yeah,
strait.
plenty of that. Yeah.
And it was just that was a really good cruise, Alaskan cruise. And it's only during certain times of the year
Yeah, that's right.
because they can't go in the wintertime. So they
Yeah.
go in probably not until May, maybe.
I can't even remember
Uh,
when we went, but I just know
Probably
everybody had
May
a
to
great time.
August or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, that was I really enjoyed that cruise.
Yeah.
Now, my partner did not enjoy it because she couldn't go lay out in the sun.
Well,
It
there's
wasn't,
that. Yeah.
it was
Well, it's
it
not
was cold.
It wasn't the Virgin Islands cruise.
But I loved the fact that it was cool and I wasn't sweating my butt off.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah,
It
that's
was great.
That's the good
Hawaii, I really am sad
stuff.
that I didn't discover Hawaii. I turned down trips to Hawaii many times
Yeah.
because it seemed like every time I had the opportunity to go to Hawaii, I ended up going to Europe. I don't
Wow.
regret that because I went to Europe a lot and I got to know parts of Europe really well.
Yeah.
But Hawaii, I just had it. I felt because I'd been to the Bahamas so many times. I said, this is just going to be the Bahamas that's a lot farther away because it's a long way
It is a
from
long
the East
flight.
Coast to
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Yeah, it is.
And it's as far as Europe is. And I said, no, I don't care. And then I finally went to Oahu, to Honolulu,
Yeah.
and saw, the things that you need to see, and then went to the North Shore,
Yep.
took a glider flight.
Ooh,
It was
beautiful.
so cool. Man,
I
that
bet.
was cool.
I bet it
And
was.
took a lot of pictures. And on the second time, maybe, I think it was two, I've been 2 or 3 times, took a Nikon class.
Ooh, that would have been
We
good.
got me up at sunrise and took us out to some point, so the sun could come up. They teach you how to shoot it.
Yeah.
And that was cool. So, I mean, Hawaii, again, I'd like to explore a little bit more of that, but
I wouldn't mind
it's
that.
paradise. But I'm just not in that. I'm generally not in that groove. I loved and still love and would love to go today if my back wasn't. That's one thing you got to watch out for too. Go do things while you're healthy.
Yeah, I
If you
agree.
don't remember, if you don't remember anything about this newscast, remember to go get this stuff done while you're healthy, because you never know when your knees, your hips, your back, or something's going to go out where you're not going to be able to go.
I
And,
agree with that.
yeah.
And I want to add, because you just made me think about that, because for years I've heard parents, grandparents, oh, when we retire, we're going to travel. They all say that.
yeah.
They all say it, and
And
none
then
of
they're
them.
too old and something's falling apart and your teeth are falling out
That's
and all
right.
this stuff.
That's right. Your hip is
You
broken,
can't
whatever.
do it. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
believe me, all that stuff happens. So but that's been the tradition. Luckily, I broke that and
Yeah.
said, I'm going to go to Europe and do all this stuff while I'm in my late 30s. Where
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. And man, I have no regrets for doing that. I
Well,
wish I had some of the money back, but
yeah.
not really.
Yeah, I mean, you make adjustments accordingly. I wish that I would have done some of that in my 30s. My wife and I have talked about, and I don't know if you've ever thought about it, and you do drive a lot, so maybe we've talked about getting a motorhome and just taking a month off and just taking that thing across the United States and picking
Across
out.
the United States.
Yeah,
I thought you
just-
were going to go to Europe with it.
No, just picking out, highlight spots that we would like to see. Like I would like, and I know this is not something kids probably would like, but as an adult, I'd like to see Mount Rushmore. I would like to just see it. I don't know if it's worth the stop, and I've gone.
It's a long way up there from everything I understand. That's one of the few places I've not been in the
you
United
have
States.
not been there.
And my friends have gone, but they just said it's out of the way, and when you're there, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck, and you got to go now out of the other, out of there again. It's just
Well,
a long way.
Maybe you and
Yeah.
I should just rent a chopper or something and fly in and fly out, just so
That's
we
the
can
way to go. Is fly over it.
Exactly.
But because I hear that it's kind of cool, but it's still
Yeah.
it's a wood it's the carving in the root.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, and it's kind of like you look at the Grand Canyon, or I do. You
the
look
Grand Canyon I've seen from 64 different ways. I flew over it every week
Yeah.
for a long time.
What is your
going to Los Angeles?
if you had to pick
and-
a national park, what would it be? What would the one park? Because people don't get an opportunity to go to all of them. I mean, you've been to probably Yellowstone, you've probably been to Yosemite, you've probably been to,
Problem with Yellowstone is again the problem I ran into this weekend in Destin, Florida.
Yeah,
Too crowded.
I imagine
I,
you'd.
I hated the fact that I was in a conga line of cars
Yeah,
going through Yellowstone. I hated that. It was, single line, cars, and then everybody lining up to see Old Faithful, and then going to see the smudge pots where the water's boiling because you.
Yeah.
I
So
don't.
it's
I
not
mean,
it's not
I
Yellowstone.
ended up with a Dookie experience there.
So you don't recommend
I
it?
tell you the part. I mean, I like a lot of Olympic National Park. It might be one of my favorites.
Really? All right.
It's so big, and it's got so much going on there. On one side of it with the ocean,
Yeah.
you got the beautiful vistas and the Deadwood Beach,
Yeah.
and it's just a lot of really things I'd never seen before over
Okay. All
there on
right.
that side, and then around there, is there's a town that has this growing. I don't know if it's jasmine or lilac or something that smells so good. But I mean, all that was kind of a cool park.
Okay.
Rocky Mountain National Park is pretty cool.
Okay.
One of my
Mountain.
favorite parks.
All
Up
right.
there, you're up there in the hill, you see the goats, and if you get up there at a certain time of year, you can drive
Yeah.
up there. That was Rocky Mountain National Park was cool. And let's see. I mean, some of them are definitely, just natural. Smoky Mountain National Park is not very exciting. I mean, it's pretty in its Appalachian way.
Did you ever do
I like
Zion National Park, Arizona?
I went to Sequoia
Oh,
National
Redwoods.
Park,
Yeah.
which is I wish we had longer to spend there
Yeah.
to see the trees and to
They're
kind of get into that a
beautiful.
little more. I'm
Yeah,
trying to think.
you were on the West Coast pretty much. So you've never been to Zion, which is what, Utah or Arizona?
No, that's one of the ones I wanted to go
Moab.
to, but again, there are no hotels near there.
That's true. You have to camp or something. You have
So
to
you
take
have
a
to
trip.
camp or
Yeah.
go in an RV like you wanted talking about.
Yeah.
Because as a photographer, every photographer, wants to go to the arches and all
Heck,
that stuff.
Jimmy, you
But
could do your show from an RV. Not the television part of it, but you could do all your radio stuff from an RV.
good, but
Something to think about.
that would be getting up at really early in the morning,
That's
2 in
true.
the morning.
That
to
is
do some of
true.
this stuff. But the problem with a lot of things now is I have a back issue that's driving me crazy.
See, here we go
And,
with the health.
it's
Yeah.
and so I can't go to where I want to go, which I've started to tell you, I think is my favorite place to go. But I only want to be there for like 2 days,
You would go right now. What is it?
for 2 days, and then I'd want to get out of there.
Okay, go.
Viva Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. Of all the places I thought you were going to say, I would
I
have never
love
guessed
Las
that.
Vegas.
You
I've
did.
had such great times in Las Vegas.
Well, then
I
go.
have some of my great. No, because you got to walk 1,000,000 miles.
That you do. You
I can't think of anything be worse
Yeah,
than going to Las Vegas right
that
now.
is true.
I mean, I don't see how people with any kind of limitations
But can you imagine?
go to Vegas.
For you could call everybody. I don't even know who's on the strip right now, but you could call every artist on the strip. They probably know who you are, and you could have
Well,
VIP.
Wayne Newton got to be friends with me, and
Yeah, you'd be
Lon
VIP.
and Peter, and all the people that play out there. Yeah,
All right, listen. If you
I
plan,
mean, but it's fun. I mean, but I don't want to be there, but for 2 days.
okay, that's fine. I
Because-
accept your invitation. Is that what that is? I don't know. Look, if you go, if you go for 2 days and it's the weekend, we'll meet you there. We'll meet you in Vegas. Would we do that? The
I
crowd
love
is
that
saying
town, but
yes.
see, I ain't gotten on a plane yet in a while, so we got to think about that. But and did a long trip this weekend.
Yeah.
Down. I don't know. We probably did 1,000 miles, but not quite.
Well, think
Probably
about
did,
it. Think about it.
But it's just I still love South Florida, roaming around down there, and still
it's
love the
beautiful.
East Coast of Florida. From St. Augustine down to Fort Lauderdale. That's some great stuff. There's nothing prettier than
Yeah.
taking a drive from San Francisco up to Oregon, or
Yeah,
driving
the
the
coast.
entire
Oh.
Oregon coast. The
The
Oregon
coast.
coast is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It
Tillamook,
is beautiful,
Morro Bay,
and all that stuff is great. Yep.
all of it.
But now I don't know that you can drive from
Highway-
Morro Bay to Santa Cruz, because I think they keep watching out one of the bridges or something.
Oh, it
keeps
is
watching.
true. That road is sliding off the hill all the time. In fact,
So I'm not sure that you can even do that now. But those are great places to go.
I agree with
And
you.
and then it just depends on what you want. But I haven't ever. I think I've explored most of these. I hear but see, again, some of these places are just really outside the loop.
Yeah,
I mean, Mackinac, or what do they call that? Mackinac Island. I always kind of wanted to go up there.
yeah, but
That's
it's
the
not.
top of Michigan.
Yeah.
Man, no one happens to be just passing by the top of Michigan. That's a long way away.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes you don't get to the destination. And I think, I mean, as we talk about this, and I think about it, as if you can take one thing away, it's make a memory, whatever it is. You may plan a trip, you may not get there, like your broken down car or whatever it is, or you may get there late or whatever. But make a memory. Take the people you love,
and don't be afraid to ask and look around. And when you're doing something, as I learned this weekend, make sure, especially now, read a review about everything it is you want to go do.
Yeah, and you can.
Every hotel you want to stay at, make sure you read the reviews. Because my favorite one was one that I posted. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it said, walked into this was at a Hilton property, Hampton Inn property in Alabama near Gulf Shores, and it said, walked into the room and there was not one but two snakes.
Oh, God. No, I did not
in
see
the room.
That post.
And they called management. And the maid said, well, we can get you another room.
Just get the snakes out. That's all I want.
No, just get me out. I mean, you don't want to be somewhere where a snake got in.
Did you stay in the hotel?
There's two snakes. No, but I read it's on the reviews, though.
Oh,
and,
my God.
No, thank. In fact, and then another one said, I hardly had a hard time finding a hotel. This one said, pulled down the covers and there were crumbs and somebody's hairnet. You know, so whoever the maid is didn't change the sheets, just covered it up. Tried to call, I didn't find that, but that was in the review. Then personally went and had the room. It seemed to be clean. Everything was good. The television, when you turned it on, it defaulted to HDMI 2 when it should have defaulted into 1.
And nothing
so it said no signal. So I had to figure out all this stuff on the TV and finally got it to where it worked. I called the operator to find out when breakfast was. Couldn't ever get her to answer the phone. I mean, it's hard to get service at any of these hotels. And if you want to look at the water, you're not going to look at the water for less than $400 or $500 a night for the Gulf.
Okay, now I got to tell you, I know we're wrapping up here, but we did Airbnb for the first time. Now, you are not a big Airbnb. I'm not.
I've never done it, so I don't know if I'm good. It may be the best thing in the world.
I don't know how much the Airbnb was in that we were in. I would say $3 to $5 million because we were in Sun Valley. So it was a high-end Airbnb. It had a jacuzzi. It had a loft area. Everybody had their own bedroom. Not everybody had their own bathroom. But, Jimmy, it was all right. I would recommend it. If you can really read about each room, read about the place, and read the review like you just said, because people will tell the truth.
Yeah.
They'll say, hell, it was dirty, or the jacuzzi wasn't clean, or whatever, but it was nice. I would do it again, and I thought I never would, but the way hotel rooms are going right now,
hotel rooms are in rough shape these days.
They are. So I would
places.
I would rather take the Airbnb. And it was a nice one, so maybe they're not like that in every city, but in Sun Valley, it was really nice. It was really nice.
Well,
so try
that's why you just read the reviews. I mean,
true.
I think there's a hard time in these expensive resorts. Having a hard time finding people. Now, I don't know where all the people went.
Yeah.
They were working there before because maybe they always had a little trouble, but nothing like they do now. And I don't know. It's an issue when you travel is trying to find affordable hotels.
That's clean.
And
just
that are clean.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the chains, and even when you pay more money, it doesn't mean they're going to be that. So
that's
you better look at your reviews. And I don't know. I'm very disappointed in 90% of the things I read about. Travelocity has good reviews.
Yeah, I've seen
even the Hilton in their own site has reviews. But be careful how much money you save. And the final thing, final, is that when you don't know what you're doing when you go into certain towns.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, for example, if you said, okay, well, I'm going to go to Nashville. Well, this is inexpensive. I'll stay in Antioch at the Hampton Inn there in Antioch.
Is that a real place? Is that a real?
Well, Okay. No, you shouldn't, because that's a really bad part of town.
See, I didn't know.
Or I'm going to stay on Brickyard Pike. Man, that Brickyard Pike place, that's close to downtown.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to do that.
That's good advice.
Because they have shootings out there every 10 seconds.
Okay.
I mean,
see, I didn't know.
You don't want to do, you've got to figure out, you got to be careful about where you go.
Yeah.
And where you stay. And that sometimes the only deals that you can find are going to be in office parks. because people go there on the weekday to go to meetings and things, but on the weekend, nobody's there.
That's
so
a nice
the secret
tip.
to finding a good hotel room is to look in where there are office parks.
That's interesting.
And all the major chains have hotels and office parks.
Yeah, that's true. I pass one on my way to work every day. It's all by itself sitting there. It's like a Marriott or
and
something.
Sometimes they're filled and sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
And on the weekends and holidays, they're usually not.
Good stuff. Well, Jimmy, always a pleasure to have you on. And folks, if nothing else, from this podcast, create a memory with the people you love, and you'll remember it forever. You really will. And until next week, Jimmy, when we do it all again on Sweeping the Country, I would say good day.
Good day.